Hi, Paul Catalina here at 365 Sports, and we've partnered up with DraftKings. Get this, right now, bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets instantly from DraftKings, a partner of the NFL. That is right, $5. That's all you got to bet, and you get $200 in bonus bets instantly. It's that simple. You just download the DraftKings app now and sign in by using our promo code 365sports. That's right. New customers bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. DraftKings customers can also get in on the game with same game parlays. Combine multiple bets from the same game for a shot at an even bigger payout. And if sports betting's not yet available in your state, no problem. You can still get on the action with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports. I'm huge into the DFS. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code 365sports. Bet just $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code 365sports only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
We have been fortunate in the past to have what was then Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlsby on this show many times during the times when things were pretty calm, and then times when things were really pretty interesting, so to speak. And he is nice enough to join us again here on 365 Sports with Paul Craig, and I'm David Smoke. So how have you enjoyed retirement, or are you actually retired?
Yeah, I'm actually retired. I think we'll probably stay in Dallas. We have 2 of our children and, more importantly, 6 of our grandchildren in town, and so we're likely going to be here. And I consulted with the Big 12 for about 6 months, and we talked about extending it. But I kind of thought that it was time to cut the umbilical cord and move on. And so I've done a little bit of whatever I wanted to. I've done a little bit of expert testimony in a court case. I've helped my son with his executive search business and his consulting business. Mm-hmm. And so I'm doing about what I want to, and really I miss the people, but I'm not missing the issues.
How often will Brett Yormark reach out to you or vice versa, and your thoughts about at least what he's done since you stepped away?
Well, we talk fairly regularly. I don't have any formal engagement, and I've tried very intentionally to stay out of the way. But he calls once in a while for a little background information or to bounce things off me. We have dinner together once in a while, and having been through the scramble that is conference realignment, he had to jump right in and hang on, and I think he's done a good job of that. I think he comes from a different background than a lot of people in on campus and in conference offices, but he knows a lot about driving revenue, and I think he's done a good job with that. And innovation, I think, is generally speaking good. So I think the first year and a half has gone just fine.
I know that, when the Texas OU bombshell happened, there's no way you foresaw what's probably, what's happened now with the Big 12 being at 16 teams and the teams from the Pac going. But as it happened after you added the 4 teams, could you have imagined them getting to the Pac and those 4 teams coming in? Because it didn't seem very likely to happen, at one time.
Well, I think the remarkable thing about the Pac-12 circumstance and their ongoing situation is how rapidly it happened. It was kind of in slow motion for months on end, and then in a period of about 48 hours, it seemed to all of the pieces shifted quickly, and the tectonic plates kind of erupted, and I think that was what was really surprising, is the speed with which it all happened. And it'll be interesting to see how it all works out. These larger alignments are they have their own complexities. You lose a lot of traditional rivalries. You have a real difficulty in scheduling. With the Big Ten having 18. if they play 9 games, they're going to have 9 no plays. And so, you end up with an illegitimate championship in a lot of ways. And so it'll be interesting to see how these new alignments work. But I think the 4 that have come to the Big 12 were probably leaving something, and they were going to something. And I think having been in that situation previously, every one of the institutions in the Pac-12 has an obligation to their school to make sure that they have contingency plans if the need should arise. And I think that's what the 4 that ended up at the Big 12, they saw that the infrastructure was falling apart in the Pac-12, and so they decided to take what was the best available opportunity.
Bob, realignment is no, newcomer to the college athletics scene. I mean, there's been tons of it over the history of college football, so it's part of the deal and part of the fabric in some ways. But these last couple of years, what do you point to as the driving force and the amount of change that we've seen, and what's the conductor, in your opinion, in all of this?
Well, I think the short answer is money, but there are a lot of byproducts from all this shifting, and it goes back a long ways. I mean, the ACC appropriated some members from the old Big East, and specifically Boston College and Syracuse were prominent members of the Big East, and they moved, and then Maryland decided to leave, and Rutgers left, and that was really about in the case of Rutgers and Maryland, it was really about capturing cable households for the Big Ten network, and the same is true for UCLA and USC. That's all about the Big Ten network being able to capture in-market fees for the Los Angeles area, and it's extraordinarily valuable. But when you distribute it over the entire Big Ten, the impact, it'll be substantial, but it isn't life changing for any of those institutions. The thing about the realignment that I think first of is that it's just kind of sad. I think the sports ecosystem is better with Pac-12 in it, and we always had 5 principal conferences that had 2 or 3 that were traditionally at the top of the heap. We had 5 or 6 that were always aspiring and getting there some of the time, and then we had some people in each of the leagues that were more than happy to be everybody's homecoming opponent and cash the checks that they got. And so, there was good competitive balance. There was good regional balance. And, I find most of it to be necessary, but we'll see how it plays out in the longer term.
With your time at Stanford, and then with also what you just said, if in fact the same circumstances that arose with the Pac-12, with what we saw with USC and UCLA, and eventually what happened, would that have made it more difficult for you to go and acquire teams from the Pac-12 to join the Big 12 if you were commissioner?
Well, that's hard to say. I think, each one of those situations is different. You can't paint everybody's circumstance throughout the league with the same brush, because some of them have better options than others. But the fact is that, everybody has an institutional obligation to think first and foremost about their own school. And, I think when Oregon and Washington were added to the Big Ten, they did what they thought was best for their school, despite the fact that it left two schools in their own states, Oregon State and Washington State, in a dire circumstance, and they still reside there right now. One of the things that's astonishing to me about all of this changing of conferences is that, University of California is the number 1 rated public university in the United States, and Stanford is the most successful athletic institution, and obviously a high academic in the history of college sports. And for those 2 universities to be afterthoughts in the changing landscape of college athletics is really a testament to the fact that university presidents and others have gotten steamrolled a little bit by the media partners.
Bob, when you watched the Pac-12 thing unfold, were you a little bit surprised that they didn't take any cues from what you guys went through?
Well, we had conversations right after the OU Texas change was confirmed. We had some conversations with the Pac-12, and at that time, USC and UCLA hadn't departed, and they didn't feel that there were any business relationships that could arrange from a complete merger to some alliances. And at that time, I would say we probably needed them more than they needed us. Fast forward 18 months, and all of a sudden we've stabilized, and the Pac-12 is wobbly. And they, lo and behold, they came back and inquired as to whether or not there was some opportunity for a partnership there. And at that point, we were in pretty good shape and didn't need the partnership as much as we may have 18 months or 2 years prior. So, there are shifting fortunes in all of this, and it's good that we were able to stabilize ourselves, and the Big 12 Conference has had a history of some fairly stormy patches, and I think stability was priority one when OU and Texas made the announcement, and I think we were able to get stable, and we were in a situation with even then an uncertain future, and so there were opportunities that presented themselves, and I think Brett did a good job of capitalizing on those opportunities.
Bob, what was your first, when you heard the news about Texas OU? That had to be like a bombshell, a blindside hit, whatever. What was your day like, or night, or evening, or whatever? I don't remember the time. Did you sleep that night?
Yeah, I always sleep, but I sometimes, I say that I sleep like a baby. I wake up every 2 hours and cry, and so I don't lose sleep very often, but I sometimes wake up early and begin worrying. And frankly, that's one of the things I don't miss about in my retirement is I don't wake up with a hot fire in my lap every day. And relative to OU in Texas, we were on our way back from an introductory trip to Kansas to meet Lance Leipold and his staff. So we, while we were there, and we were, it was Ed Stewart and Tim Weiser and myself, we decided we'd go over and see Coach Self, and so we spent some time in his office, and when we landed on the way back, we found out that the room, it was SEC Media Day, and the rumor was started by the Texas A&M folks that OU and Texas had indeed been exploring and had made the decision to move. And at the same time, we learned that Bill Self had tested positive for COVID that afternoon. So we had all been exposed. So, it was a wonderful couple of hours after we landed back in Dallas trying to figure out what was going on. And it was a day and a half before I was able to get either athletic director or either president to return a telephone call. So, there was some frustration and certainly surprise. There was disappointment because of some of the people that were involved, but all you can do is move on, and people make choices for their own reasons, and we had to go forward and make some choices on our own.
Well, okay, so you mentioned that you don't have to wake up with a fire in your lap, and we hear about college football coaches that you wonder how much longer they'll stay in the game because of NIL and transfer portal and so much that change. Is that, you think, going to also not trickle down, but trickle up to administrators of college athletics?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think anybody's having a whole lot of fun right now. The absence of NCAA rules around NIL, it was a colossal mistake, and even if we had gotten sued again, it would have been better to have a stake in the ground and stated what we stood for, rather than leave the institutions with no guidance whatsoever. And so, now we have a bunch of state laws that are all very different, and we are in a situation where clearly NIL is being used for inducements to transfer and to initially enroll, and the legislation that the solutions group that I co-chaired had forwarded included prohibition of using it for inducements to initially enroll or to transfer. So, it's still the wild, wild west out there. And to your question, I don't think administrators are having a lot of fun. I don't think coaches are having a lot of fun. Most people that I know in athletics would like to know what the rules are, and they would like to know that somebody was working every day to make sure everybody was adherent to those rules. And I don't know that that's the case right now. And but having said that, college athletics over a long period of time has had a remarkable ability to find its own equilibrium. And I think, that things have calmed down a bit in the transfer portal. We're starting to get some windows around the seasons and at the end of seasons where the transfers can take place, so that we don't have quite so much of people just walking off the field and deciding to go into the transfer portal. So that's already begun to calm down a little bit. And it's easy to forget that there were only 5 sports that had the transfer residence requirement anyway. All the other sports, you could transfer whenever you wanted to, as many times as you wanted to. We just worked hard to protect the ones where we spent a lot of money in recruiting and where we had a lot of fan interest. So, this isn't an entirely new environment. And relative to NIL, I don't think that you're going to see boosters over and over and over again making large contributions to collectives that are end up going to be passed on to the kids, and they're not getting any donation credit from the universities in that circumstance, because they aren't 501c3 organizations. So I just think that it's likely to evolve. I think the pendulum will swing back towards the middle at some point in time, and whether we get any sort of legislative assistance at the state level or the federal level remains to be seen. But the NCAA is going to have to, the membership is going to have to get engaged in deciding what it wants NIL and the transfer portal to look like. And somebody's going to have to lead on those issues.
Is there something professionally freeing about, because being a conference commissioner is a job that not many people have, and it is something that to do it well, you have to make a lot of people not happy, but at least content all at once. And they have to, you said fires in your lap. There's always little things, or, this one's mad, not everybody. If everybody's content, you're doing your job all right. But when Texas No U left and you had to just go straight ahead and you didn't have to worry about making Texas No U happy anymore, you just had to be on the side of the 8 teams that were still left. How freeing was that, even though it was difficult to know that at least now I don't have to worry about making them happy?
Well, I think we probably would have added new members in 2016 had it not been for Texas and OU voting against them. And, they were treated like 800-pound gorillas most of the life of the Big 12, including the 10 years I was there. So, that's they have a national presence, and they've earned it, and so it's no different than the way Michigan and Ohio State are treated in the Big Ten, or at least when I was there at the University of Iowa. USC and UCLA used to receive what was called the Southern California premium because of the media markets that they resided in. So those people that are the conference bell cows are frequently treated slightly different than the rest of the people. In the case of the Big 12, the Longhorn Network certainly was an issue that required some thoughtful workarounds in order to make it work. And but I think generally speaking, we got along well. I mean, when I interviewed for the job, I told the three presidents that I was meeting with that the Big 12 looked to me like like rats leaving a sinking ship. And of course, that was right after Missouri and Texas A&M and Colorado and Nebraska had all left in 2 consecutive years. And it took some convincing to get me to leave Stanford and come to the Big 12. But one of the things I had to do was unify the group, and we did that for a period of time. And ultimately, some decided to jump ship, and we went out and did the best we could to bring in high-quality institutions and high-quality athletics programs, and I think Brett has continued to do that.
Bob, to be the commissioner when all of a sudden you lose 2 massive logos like Texas and Oklahoma, I'm sure is something that you weren't thrilled to be a part of. But what is your legacy? Will it be how you reacted to that and how quickly the Big 12 survived, which they've done before, but how quickly that came about with the 4 new schools?
Well, it's not for me to decide what my legacy is. I worked on campus for 30 years. I know how athletic directors think. I know how presidents think. And that prepared me well to try and be at the nexus of all of those institutions. And you realize that everybody's needs are not the same. Everybody is not identically situated. And some have small towns and small airports, and some have big cities and big airports, and some are easy to recruit to and some are hard to recruit to. Some have big endowments and some don't have much of any endowments. As much as we're all part of a conference, the budgets range from $250 million to $80 million. And so when you say, well, we're in the A5 and we're a really homogenous group, well, there's a lot of difference between spending $250 million a year and spending $80 million a year. And you do things differently, and you succeed in different ways. And so, I think that's what you do as a commissioner is you have to communicate directly with individual institutions. And Baylor is a good example. When the university and the community went through the sexual assault allegations and all the things that were derivative to that. I spent a lot of time in Waco, and I spent a lot of time with university leadership and with outside advisors. And none of us signed up for it, but you deal with it. And the same is true with OU in Texas. It wasn't something that I ever aspired to, but I was in the chair, and along with a very good committed staff, we worked our way through it. But there's no manual for any of this, and so the years of experience on campus served me well, and I think I generally have a temperament that is not inclined to knee-jerk reactions, and that probably served me well as well. But it's none of us wish for tragedy or surprises or catastrophic things happening, but they do occur, and you have to deal with them.
Bob, do you have time for another question or two? If you mind?
Sure.
The immediate aftermath of what occurred, as you mentioned, during 2016, when we were at Big 12 Media Days, we had you on that week, but one of the other things is that the conference voted to take away some revenue or not give revenue to Baylor. Was that just like going in for the kill, even though there were problems? in the SEC or some other conferences, at least like everyone feels like the weakest link is their strongest link, that they have to make sure they're protected. Was that something that was necessary even back then?
Oh, I don't know that I'd really put it in a financial context. It was, there was a fine involved, and there was a withholding of money involved. Baylor has paid the fine, and the money has been returned, and it was about $12 million, as I recall. I haven't looked at the documents for a while, but when Dr. Livingstone came in, she wasn't coming into any bed of roses, and the same is true with Matt Rule, and those are very difficult times. And Mac Rhodes was a steady hand. He worked through a lot of extraordinarily difficult things that also had no manual attached to it. And I think Baylor University did an excellent job of getting outside consultants and outside legal advice and putting the right people in place and working on the culture that they wanted to have on campus and in the sports programs. And so I think the most telling aspect of that is that all of the funds were returned 18 months before they were scheduled to be returned, because the presidents and chancellors believed that Baylor had done an exceptional job of doing what they said they were going to do, and that is make their culture a state of the art situation. And so, that was just one thing that we all dealt with at the time. But when one member of the conference has difficulty, everybody shares the angst in some ways.
Bob, the final thing, and you mentioned your grandkids and also the family. You go hunting and fishing. That's kind of your getaway. I talked to Bob Berta for a little bit earlier this morning. How much of that is your peace and quiet?
Oh, I don't know. It's I really like easy golf courses, and I like places where I'm not sure I'm a fan of fishing, but I'm a fan of catching, and so and when it comes to bird hunting, I like slow flying birds that are easy to hit, and so I do things that don't frustrate me for my leisure time, and then I really enjoy my young grandkids. I have 10 of them, and they're age 14 down to age 2, and they go 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 6, 8, and then some older ones. And so I am really having the opportunity to do things that you really don't have a chance to do as an athletic director or as a commissioner. I was 100 nights a year in a hotel for 30 years, and I was always very actively involved in the NCAA, and I missed a lot of family things. I missed a lot of my kids' athletic events, and never really had a chance to coach my kids because I never could commit to being there every time. And so I really am having some fun doing things that I really was never able to do when I was working. So I guess that's what retirement's supposed to be.
Thank you, Bob. We appreciate your time. Always did when you were running the commissioner's job at the Big 12, and maybe again come back with us again. We appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me on.
Bob Bowlsby, former Big 12 commissioner, with us on 365 Sports.